Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another session of Curiosity Talks. It's great to have all of you here. And Curiosity Talks is an offering that Wisdom Circle brings to you, where we learn wisdom from people who have inspiring stories to tell and knowledge to bring to all you curious folks. Today we have with us Prashant Agarwal, a marketeer, innovator, and connector with more than 25 years of deep consumer expertise, working at the intersection of capital and human behavior across the world. So he started his career as Unilever's youngest manager globally and went on to work in banking, tech, and the insurance sectors. This diverse path has given him a rare panoramic view of how economic realities are shifting and insight into why even high-achieving professionals struggle to face their financial future with confidence. He has spent a decade creating a very simple roadmap that challenges outdated financial wisdom and is easy to apply. Having tested his frameworks through his own professional pivots, Prashant wrote Cliff to help people everywhere achieve true financial flexibility. He has an MBA from Harvard and is an exec ed alum from Singularity, Wharton, Darden, and IMD. I think I should stop talking now so that we can listen to what Prashant has to say. So, welcome, Prashant.
Thank you very much, Swati.
So, Prashant, before we even start going into the main topic, tell us about where Cliff actually came from for you personally. Tell us about the why and the how and the nuts and the bolts.
So, Swati, all interesting things start with adversity. All right. So, I was in a job where I loved the job and the mandate, and I just couldn't connect with my boss. And it became pretty clear that I think the future feeling was mutual. And I was like, okay, this is not constructive for me. It's not the environment in which I can do my best work. And at one point, I thought I should leave and I should join something else. Now, Singapore is a very expensive country to live in. And at that moment, I realized that I didn't know if I could afford to leave. And that was a very embarrassing answer for me because I felt like, I'm this MBA, I worked for 15 years. I should know. I'd be okay with an answer that said that, hey, you can't afford to leave, suck it up. But this was like, I didn't even know. And so, long story short, when I did leave, and I left, and I was fortunate to join another organization where I really enjoyed shortly thereafter. I said, this is a new reality of life that we need financial flexibility and we need to take active control. So I created a plan that I nicknamed Fiscally Flexible by 50. And I said, before I'm 50, I need to have the ability not to retire, but to be in a scenario where I can absorb some of these uncertainties and risks of modern living. And when I did manage to reach my cliff plans by the age of 47, 3 years ahead of schedule, I then decided to write it up into this book.
That's wonderful. Getting a book out of your experience is the best way to do it, I suppose. And one of the things that you talked about was being at the intersection of money through many roles in financial services and consumer behavior as a marketer across 5 industries. So, what were your observations through these experiences? And can you walk the audience through some of that?
All right, so 25 years, one conclusion, and a 6-part solution. So let's start with the most obvious observation. Most financial plans assume a model that no longer exists. And when you talk to financial planners, you're usually planning for about 85 years. There is a level of belief that you can retire at 60. You'd have what is called a retirement catch up in your 50s when you're earning well and your children have left the house and are you're no longer funding colleges in most cases, and that you would reskill to extend your retirement age. All of that doesn't actually apply in today's environment. So, in my own career, I've really been a corporate man. I've been across the world and I worked with startups, and I've really focused it on the money mindset that helps people plan for this new reality of life with the comfort and confidence to live well as they live long. All right. Now, the world has changed, but the advice hasn't. And I think we all are what I call the luckiest unlucky generation. Now, let me tell you what that means. So let's start with what's a typical game in most parties, two truths and a lie. And this is a great party. We have lots and lots of people here. So let's talk about the two truths and a lie. Truth number one, you will live longer than you think. Now, in the simplest of terms, because when people talk about 100-year life, most people say, yeah, but I won't really live to 100-year life. Come on, that's too long. Who wants to live that long? Fact is that you will live about 10 to 15 years longer than your grandparents. This is the moment where most people do the mental math, and most grandparents who've passed on is usually somewhere between 80 and 85. And then the math hits home that, okay, now we are talking somewhere between 90 and 100. All right. Now, in the past, this wasn't your lifespan was not really a problem because you kind of worked till a retirement age. It was fairly defined. Then you passed away. An 80-year lifespan was really about 20 odd years of a learn phase, 40 years of an earn phase, and about 20 years of retirement in what I call a burn phase. So learn, earn, and burn work pretty well. Now, in 100-year life, these economics go for a toss because your death period shifts out a little bit and your healthier, happier years actually increase, which is a good problem to have. But when you look at 100-year lifespan, your best case is that you still learn for about 20 years. You earn ideally still for about a 40-year period, but now you will burn for a 40-year period. So earlier, for every year that you were earning, every 2 years that you earned, you had 1 year that you were retired. Now for every year you're earning, in your best case, you have a year when you are not really earning, but you're spending that money. Now, the implication of this, and this figure that we have here, it's called the retirement smile because it kind of curves up like a nice smiley face, but it's not exactly a happy smiley face because it reminds you that your cash spend goes up. And the reason for it is a very good reason. People will be younger for a lot longer. So today's 70-year-old has a very healthy and very active lifestyle on average compared to a generation ago. People in their 70s were usually not traveling. Today's 70-year-old is traveling everywhere. Now that those extra healthy years, they will consume more money. And this is what we call the lifestyle gap. Now, in the mid-retirement years, somewhere between 75 and 85, people will see their costs go down. But then in their later years, your health related expenses take over. And then you suddenly see a big uptake in that. All right. Second truth is that careers will not only be shorter, they will also be unstable. So back in the day, about 2 to 5 jobs for anyone was pretty much the norm. My parents' generation, my dad was in one job throughout his career. After retirement, he did another, so we call it two. Today, already before the age of 55, the average number is closer to 12. So 12 jobs doesn't always mean that you chose the timing perfectly. It means there are times when you don't have a job. There are times when you got laid off and you had to wait extended time periods. In the past, people used to assume that they would retire at 60, but now who knows? And rewirement is going to replace the concept of retirement. So what does this mean? Shorter careers is like an ambush. Everyone now uses GPTs, whether you're using ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, all of these, ChatGPT is the fastest adopted technology in human history. When a movie platform like Netflix took 10 years to get to 100 million users, Spotify took 11, Facebook took about half that at 5, Instagram took half that at about 2.5 years. ChatGPT took 2 months to reach 100 million users. And the obvious implication of that is employers are, for various reasons, beginning to trim jobs very quickly. Block cut 40% of the workforce, Coinbase 14, Microsoft 7, Meta 10, Snap 16, Oracle 6, Epic Games 20. And these are cuts that have happened in 2026. So these are not even half the year is over. And Meta, by the way, had its highest ever quarter. I think this quarter was its highest fiscal performance. Yet 2 weeks later, they axed 10% of their workforce. This is a new reality. We may want to work, but we may not be wanted for work. So as productivity savings with AI are improving, it's not just the people at the bottom of the pyramid who are finding themselves at risk. It's actually the middle managers and the senior managers that are getting cut. All right. And this is something that people are only now beginning to realize is much more common than they had thought it would be. So we've covered two truths. Now let's come to the lie. The lie is what we have been told for a long time, and all the young people are told that even now. Live in the moment, you can cover later in the future, right? My favorite line, YOLO, you only live once. Now, in the past, actually, there was science that supported this logic. There's a whole Nobel Prize winning hypothesis called the life cycle hypothesis that said that, in your youth, you took on debt typically for things like your education. When you started working, your income was more than your savings, so you would be able to put money aside, and eventually you would use some of that saving for your post-retirement expenses, right? So it was a little bit of a dance between consumption, debt, and accumulation. And all this was fueled by things like credit card debt, easy financing, and now my favorite thing to hate, buy now, pay later. Right? Many people don't even realize that buy now, pay later is basically a very simple consumer debt. Now, this used to work when people had that 50s catch up, when their earnings were at their peak, their family expenses were much lower, but career instability now typically hits right at that point. So it's like a tsunami that hits you just when you were counting on that money to wipe out your debt and put money aside for your retirement, is when you find that you don't have savings, you are actually drawing down. So in these redundancies and even your own chosen career pivots, your earning cycle is no longer steady or reliable, right? So YOLO now is a one-way street, unfortunately. And when you are just blindly following the crowd, there is one direction that goes and it's not up. Okay. Now, the observations that I've had during these 25 years, that many people, they sound very obvious, but many people struggle with them. First is that wealth is not what you earn, it's what you keep. Now, income and wealth have a lower correlation than you may think. More than 2 in 3 millionaires have never earned six figures in their lives, right? So if this man has a beautiful looking large house, he has fancy cars, he's wearing super fancy designer clothes, you may think he's wealthy, but the fact is that in his case, a lot of his money is on the back of debt. The guy in the lower frame has a more modest house. He still has two cars, but they're not the flashy kind. And he has much less debt. His wealth is actually higher than the guy in the above frame. The guy in the above frame is more looking at his earnings and his earnings potential to carry him through, which works until it doesn't. All right. Second is what I call the smoker's paradox. Your problem isn't ignorance. It's kind of like in smoking. Every smoker knows that smoking is not healthy for them. yet they struggle. Yet smoking, the cigarette companies still make a lot of money. And I think Philip Morris and Altria are some of the highest dividend and have what are called dividend aristocrats, that they every year they increase their dividends because they make a lot of money. It is because what we know is different from what we do. Spending provides people a feeling of control, fear of missing out, what's called the hedonic treadmill, the wiring of us as human beings to spend when we are nervous and to feel that level of control. It's kind of like how a smoker, even knowing it's unhealthy, is smoking because it relaxes them in that moment. And that is worth the smoke to them. We have actually gone from a YOLO reality to a yo-yo one. And yo-yo here stands for you're on your own. You have to create your own protection. You have to create your own systems. A lot of people, 80% of people typically rely on employers or governments for their health coverage, for example. 1 in 3 people are very worried that they are about to be laid off. Okay. Pensions are already a thing of the past. They used to be pretty cool for my parents' generation. I think they're almost non-existent in ours. They will all but be completely non-existent in my children's generation. 45% of people report having very severe retirement anxiety. So it is actually like a yo-yo, that it's going to swing up and down, and you have to manage this on your own. All of this, not surprisingly, creates a very high level of anxiety. All right. So if you are worried, you're not alone. Employees report losing 7 hours every week of productive time worrying about money. I looked at the data of Singapore, for example. There was a very nice report that NTU just did. Half the employees in Singapore feel insecure about having their jobs. 22% of people in America don't even have money set aside for emergencies. Literally, they said that if they need $300 to repair their cars, they don't have $300. Now, you think of America as the world's largest economy. 1 in 5 people have absolutely no money set aside at all. And 44% of people in Singapore, again, one of the world's highest GDP per capita countries, says they will never, ever achieve financial freedom. Right? So this is the reality that people are forced to live with. Now, financial content has to move beyond the stereotypes. I used to find it amusing. Now I find it irritating that all these products for retirement, financial products, they all have books with pictures of happy couples retiring at 65, standing on a beach, cute little doggy. They're painting a very artificial picture. They're all obsessing over how much you need. They are all aimed at the ultra wealthy people, or the other extreme, people who are really, really struggling. Very little exists for the people, that massive group of people in the middle, people who are more normal, people like me, who are neither really struggling, but we are not ultra wealthy. And all of this content is targeting independence, which is a very glorified, very aspirational element to be in. This goes from that to focusing on the kind of life you want and to targeting flexibility. So you want a scenario where your financial security is high and your career flexibility is a lot more free. That's the promised land. Most people are sitting in a scenario where today their financial security is low. And as a result, they feel very constrained to even leave their careers. They're just stuck there. They will hate their jobs. They will hate their boss. They will feel stuck, but they have no choice. They have to stay in it because their financial security is very, very low. Now, all these observations come to one conclusion. And I call this conclusion the longevity paradox. Living longer can kill us. All right. The fact that we will live longer can be the reason that we will be dead, financially at least. Because living to 100 isn't a blessing if you run out of your money at 80. If you planned for a financial life that runs till about 80, 85, if you live to 100, you're sitting on a world of hurt. All right. In a manner of speaking, we are on the edge of a cliff as a generation. Everything about planning money for life has changed. Lives are longer by a lot. Careers are shorter. They are unstable. Most people are out by the age of 50. Forget being a matter of shame. Now it is a matter of shock if someone is in their jobs past 50. And we have started the yo-yo economy where you have to create your own plan. So what is CLIF? CLIF is an acronym. It stands for Comfortable Living in Financial Flexibility. I kind of chose this name intentionally because it's a very edgy kind of a name. People who hear it, in all the books and all the movies, people are pushed off a cliff or they fall off a cliff. But cliff is also an inflection point from which you can soar up. So cliff is not about retiring early, but it's about having life choices. It's not about living cheaply and frugally and hating your life. It's about living a balanced life and having fun. And it's about being able to say no to toxicity and saying yes to new chapters. So cliff for me isn't about financial freedom. It is about financial flexibility. Now, what does financial flexibility look like? To me, it is very simply the power of yes, I can. Yes, I can start a business I'm passionate about. Yes, I can take a break without worry. Yes, I can walk away from a toxic job and recharge. Yes, I can take time out to care for my aging parents. It's a method that is all about putting you in charge. In all this, biggest observation was that hope is not a strategy. By just believing in your own financial growth and your financial security, it will not happen just by that. You will have to take very active control and you will have to do it and you will have to do it yourself. Relying on your employers, relying on government systems is not only short-sighted, it is also very, very risky. Inaction is no longer an option. You may think that you can take your risk out of your financial planning by not doing it, but the only way to do nothing wrong is to do nothing, and doing nothing is no longer an option. So this is an exercise of getting from uninformed anxiety to informed control. When I was researching this, a lot of themes that I heard from people were these four. I fear I'm too late. I don't understand investing. What if I get it all wrong? I don't even know what I have or how much I spend in each year. So I got all these kinds of questions. I wonder if these sound familiar to any of you. If these are questions you have in your minds towards the end of this session, please do ask these questions, but I think I will cover each of these a little bit later today as well. So in brief, yes, you can. And in the rest of this, with Swati's help, I'm going to show you how. All right. All right, Swati,
So,
back to you.
Prashant, yes, so you really scared us and made us sit up. Okay. Now we're worried. Now we're waiting for you to show us how we get financial flexibility. But when you talk about financial flexibility, most people have used the term financial independence and financial flexibility. So the first question is, are they the same, or is there a deliberate use of different words?
Thanks, Swati. Actually, I've been very careful in using a different term. You're right. Because financial independence or financial freedom, they are used quite interchangeably. You are financially independent when you are not working for money, right? When you don't have to work, when your income that you get from all other sources helps you take care of your lives. Now, there are only one of two ways really to get there. One is you have a good amount of money, or you have very few needs, right? a typical monk is financially independent because the need of a monk is very minimal. Okay. But financial independence takes a longer time to reach. The point at which you will feel comfortable enough that, okay, I can completely stop earning altogether and I'm fine. To me, financial flexibility is uh, almost a milestone on that journey. It comes before independence. So I am financially flexible. I am not financially retired. I I am a little under 50 at the moment. I don't believe I can burn through my money for the next 50 years completely and live the lifestyle that I want. Okay, but what flexibility means is that I can absorb uncertainty in my finances for periods of time. So year before last, I worked on a startup. It blew up. It looked like it was going great till it stopped going great. And if we have any entrepreneurs in the audience, they'll know exactly what I mean. We scaled very quickly to 180,000 users, and then it fell apart. Now, emotionally, it was difficult, but financially, it was a non-event. Nothing in my lifestyle changed because my plan was not running on that startup being successful in a period of 6 months. Right?
Right.
Today, I've gone from being a failed entrepreneur at the moment to now a struggling author. Authors other than J.K. Rowling are pretty much struggling people, right? But I'm able to do this and I'm able to enjoy the process because I'm not counting on the income from selling books, which fewer and fewer people buy. And I can indulge that
Yeah.
side of me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. What we had done, Prashant, is we had sent the money mindset tool link to our audience. So,
Right.
can you tell us about it and what it is and how did you end up creating it?
Sure. So I hope a lot of people. Hi, Sunita. Would you like to ask your question?
No, let's ask the questions later, Prashant. So
Okay,
let's
but
complete.
Sunita looks like
Yeah.
she's all ready.
No, no,
So
no, it's
let's
okay.
let's
It's
just take
okay.
her.
It's okay. Let's not break Swati's structure. We'll get at it. No problem.
All right. Thanks, Sunita. So Swati, this tool was designed with a really important purpose that I felt that money is about the mind before it's about the math. I think the reason people get money wrong is that they think it's about numbers and math and complicated and boring things. But money is really about our mindset. You have people with a lot of money who are always nervous about money and stressed out and not living happily. And equally, you have people who have very, very, very modest means, but they are very happy. They're very comfortable. They're very confident in their own money. Okay. So this tool was designed to help you understand your own mindset towards money. Now, there are very good instruments that exist. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau had one. There are about four publicly available instruments that I really liked. My problem with them was that they were all about 60, 70 questions long. And even I got bored taking those questions because they all began to sound the same to me as I started taking them. So I took those tools and I kind of combined them in a new way. Yes, Anshul, we'll share the tool link again in a second. And the idea of this tool is it's free. You just take 28 questions. They go from disagree completely to agree completely. And at the end, it'll automatically email you a 3-page report about your money mindset, and it'll give you some ideas about how people with a mindset similar to yours, what are the mistakes they make, what do they get right, what are things they may want to think about. So far, I've had about 100 people have taken this. 99 have told me it's spot on, and one has said it's about half there. But when I asked him to take it again and I checked the answers, I think it's a little coding error. So do please, when you take it, put in the chat if you've taken it, if it was right or off for you, because I'm just testing it now. But 99 out of 100 people telling me it's spot on, I think is very gratifying. Thank you, Deepa. That is a very big compliment. And I'll put Mansi on the spot, who did tell me that she took it and she felt it was pretty close to who she is. So that is the idea, Swati. And to understand money, you have to understand yourself. So I do I request people just take it. You have nothing to lose. Um, Hopefully, it'll give you insights into yourself, because how we behave with money, it typically gets formed in our teens, actually. I know a banker who makes more than $1 million a year. Okay. And this guy, he preaches to his children, money doesn't grow on trees and whatnot. Because when he was young, he didn't even have a bicycle. Okay. And he heard his parents arguing about money. And so he really struggles to spend his money. I have a feeling his kids are going to be very rich inheritors at some point, because I know he has a lot of money and he doesn't spend a lot of money. Right.
But I think the newer mantra, even among people our age, Prashant, is that spend your children's inheritance in your lifetime. Do you think that is true?
Swati, I am a believer in that, and I'll tell you what I've done. I've literally bought my son a chunk of life insurance on me and my wife. Okay. And I've said, look, now when we die, there is money you will get by definition through this insurance. And
Right.
presumably we will live in some house, so you will inherit that house.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I have no plan to leave anything for you by intention. If I
Right.
leave something for you, it'll be by accident, but don't expect it. But even the reverse is true, Swati. My parents have really struggled with this. Okay. So I'll take a minute to tell you a story that hopefully will resonate with many people. For the
Sure.
long, I mean, I'm blessed. My brother and I are both doing fairly well. We are not really looking to inherit our parents' wealth. And it irritates us no end that my parents, who are fairly asset rich, they don't have a lot of cash, but they have property and stuff, and they just don't spend. So my brother and I would upgrade their flights on long haul. From when I lived in the US, it's a very long flight. We would upgrade them to business class, and we would have to pretend that we had miles that were expiring. Till 2 years after that, my dad was like, just how many miles does each of you have? Because every time you are upgrading us on expiring miles, how many miles of yours are expiring?
Yeah.
Right? It took us a long time to get them to sell some property. I see Anshul's thumbs up there. And the fact is that now they have a lot of liquidity, and they
Right.
deserve it. They worked so hard for it. And forget
Mm.
them having a good time. Me and my brother, we feel happy when we see them spending money just without a thought, because they can, right? Now all the flights are being upgraded by themselves. We
Okay.
are not allowed to do it, and we don't have to pretend we have expiring miles, right?
Yeah. That's a lovely story. I'm so glad you could convince your parents, though that is not a very
It was
easy
easy.
job
It
all the
wasn't easy.
time. Yeah.
In
Yeah. A
the
lot of
last
people.
talk I did, someone asked me point blank, how did you convince your parents? Because I've been fighting this battle for the last 5 years and I've lost it.
Yeah. So, Prashant, let's go to the blueprint. We had promised the audience the blueprint, and while we will give it to them after the event, could you walk
Mhm.
us through it so that they know what they are reading or what they're going through?
Absolutely. Just give me a second. And okay, guys, the blueprint is exactly the stuff that is here. So we will cover it in more detail here, and the blueprint is just like your summary notes version. Tell me when you get the screen.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Super.
can see it now.
All right, so let's get started with the how, right? I've already scared you about how many things can go wrong. So now let me tell you how they will go right for you. Okay. It's a lot easier than you may think. Now, here's another little secret, because my wife is not on this call. I'm going to confess it here, and hopefully, she will not know that I've said this. My wife has a PhD in business, yet she is one of the most financially illiterate people I know. Okay. Her concept of money is all about putting fixed deposits in a bank, because that is all she knew. Okay. So, money, you don't have to be super knowledgeable. People who have studied business are not naturally great with money. Some of the people I have, in the course of writing this book, discovered are the worst people with their own money are bankers. Okay. They're so busy giving advice to other people that their own money is a mess. All right. So, first thing is just take my word for it and tell me if I have lived up to it. that the blueprint is simpler than you may think. Now, you all as an audience have three things that are going for you. The first is that you are even asking this question, that you're here, that you care about this. Most people don't. Awareness is the first way in which you're going to solve this. Second is most people on this call have an experience in non-linear careers. When you are associating with the wisdom circle, you are already looking at not your standard, I have joined one company and I will be here till I retire kind of a mode. You've already explored the concept of careers with different nodes and different possibilities. And the third is that in this process, we will unveil for you this blueprint that works. I have done it. I am happily living it. I have seen none of this is intelligently my own unique element. I have compiled it from a lot of conversations and a lot of experiences of real people. If you get the book, you will, all the stories in the book are real people. I've just disguised them, but they are, all the stories are real. The strategies are real. None of this is theory. Let's start with the most important thing. It isn't your fault. All right. YOLO, FOMO, BNPL, all these four-letter words that you can think of, they are not your fault. Okay. There are two enablers that are in plain sight, time and growth. We will cover those. And if you follow these very simple 6 steps and you keep things simple, you are going to be just fine. So YOLO, BNPL, FOMO, they are all, not surprisingly, 4-letter words that are designed to 4-letter your financial future. Okay. I call it the social media tax. FOMO, fear of missing out, is engineered. It makes you feel that you're missing something. It's free to use because you pay on social media with your attention and you are the product and they make you pay, right? So social media, FOMO, all of this leads you to spend money you don't have on things you don't want to impress people you don't even know. Okay. And that is a scientific element of how, and in fact, Meta and all are fighting court cases at the moment on how they inspire people to take a certain set of action. So if you find yourself doing it, the fact is that you were taken there. Now, getting there was not your fault, but getting out is going to be your responsibility. Okay. Let's talk about the enablers. You need only 2 enablers, time and growth. Let's start with time. Imagine that there is a genie that you meet. Okay, on my screen, I can see Sunita. So Sunita, I'm going to pick on you. You're walking down the street and you meet this genie. Okay, genie gives you 2 choices, Sunita. Choice number 1 is every year on your birthday, you will magically get $10,000 of cash to spend because genie wants you to have a really happy birthday. Okay, so you get this money, you have to spend it, $10,000 every month, every year. Second is he gives you this little magic box. It's transparent. It has $1 in it. And you can neither put anything in nor can you take anything out. The box will automatically unlock after 20 years. Okay. Every year on your birthday, whatever's inside the box will double. But you'll only see this $1 note. You won't know how much is in it. Okay. What should you take? What should you ask the genie? Now, I'm not going to put you on a spot here. The first thing you should ask the genie is not only give me the box, but don't open the box in 20 years. Please open the box in 30 years. You know why? Because in 20 years, that $1 doubling 20 times becomes $1 million, million. Okay. But if you got an extra 10 years, Sunita, from 20 to 30, that 1 million doubling another 10 times will go to $1 billion, billion with the B. Okay. That is the power of time. So when you think of compounding, time is the only genie that a financial plan needs. the earlier you start, the less you can get away with, in a good way, that the less money you need in order to make it work. All right. Now, the second part is about growth. This is about getting investing right, and it is easier than you realize. So I'm going to tell you another story, and I can now see Raj Kumar on my screen, so I won't pick on Sunita. I'm going to pick on you, Raj. Okay. So Raj, Phil is the world's unluckiest investor. It is humanly impossible to be unluckier than Phil. He starts his investing in 1973, and one day after he invests, the oil embargo happens and the market falls 41%. Okay. Then he stays put, and he has a very simple diversified MSCI World Index, one single ticker. 1987, he puts another $100,000. He's like, okay, now almost 15 years have passed. He's gotten over his shock. Next day, Black Monday, 20% down. He's again terrified, does nothing. This time, another almost 15 years, 13 years pass. .com is going on. He's finally like, okay, I'm missing out. He puts another 100,000. December 99, .com bust 46% down. Then he puts in money 7-8 years later in September 2007, and the subprime crisis hits, another 54% down. Finally recovers his guts in 2020, and COVID happens, 34% down in 2 days, right? The only good thing that happened to Phil is he was so scared that he was too scared to even sell. He became so panicked that he was paralyzed. He took no action. When he checked his account in May 2020, so the recovery from COVID hasn't actually happened in the market, he discovers his annualized return is 8%. 8% a year over this time period. Today, his annualized return is close to 8.5% because of the couple of very, very good years the market ended up having. So the world's worst investor is not the guy who buys at the top just before a crash. It's actually the person who stays out of the market. All right. So if you, whatever you do, Raj, you cannot be worse than Phil. Okay, in terms of your market timing. But all this says is if you get in and you have the discipline to stay in, you will get a return of about 8% based on this math over a long period of time. And no bank is giving you 8% on your money. A typical savings account on average will be about 1%, depending on where you live. But on US dollars, you're not getting 8%. All right. So the question that I always get is, am I too late? I'm already in my 40s, maybe even 50s. What do I do? Let's assume that you have only now realized that you need to plan for a 100-year life, that your plan actually is for an 85-year life. All right. That many, many, many people tell me is their reality. Today, you're already 45. How do you close this gap? Easier than you may think, with time and growth. Imagine you put across $250 a month and you invest that for 15 years. So from 45 to age 60. After all, you were planning to retire at 60. So that's the only time. And then you just leave it there. Don't touch it. Don't do anything with it. At 85, it will be worth more than $1 million. So at 85, the money you need for the next 10 years or 15 years for the life that you hadn't planned for, you will get that boost very comfortably by literally setting aside $250 a month for the next 15 years, right? Now, to those people who tell me that they can't find $250 a month, it's actually a lot easier. After I left my job, I discovered I was paying a lot for my mobile phones. When I degraded my plan, I got more data for 1/3 the price. I was also paying for a TV subscription that I don't think I'd ever switch that TV on in years. Okay. So we are surrounded by waste. Eliminating that waste alone can give you $250 a month easily. All right. Now the blueprint of soaring up, the 6 steps. The mindset we've already covered. So this is the link, but we'll put it on the chat as well, Anshul. Very simple steps. S is for save, because you have to fund your journey. You have to do some mindful spending so that you have money. O is for operationalize your money. If you have to execute your plan, you have to put your money to work. If you have savings and you leave them in the bank, and I do know somebody who had about $5 million, but all 5 million have been lying in the bank for the last 20 years. And his probably his financial outlook is not as good as it needs to be now. Third is about accelerating your plan with amplifying your returns, which we'll cover because everyone likes to talk crypto and startups and all these kinds of cool things. So we'll talk about those. R is for rewiring and embracing a non-linear life. U is for using the money. So not being in my parents' position of having money and not using it. And P is for protecting and shielding against the unexpected. The latte factor, a lot of people have talked about this, that, if you didn't drink your Starbucks latte over a 1 year period, that's $1,000. That is complete BS, excuse my language. Do not focus on saving at the cost of every small pleasure you have in life. Focus more on making your money work for you. Saving is the money you didn't spend. So money, that you are spending because of social pressure. Many people save what is left over, which is not a very practical way because you want to actually pay yourself first. And the real problem is not having a budget. So failing to plan is planning to fail. Easy ways for it: budget, decide based on that budget what you will save and take it out before you start spending. Then, as I mentioned, figure out the waste in your life. The waste is the best place to find money to save, because it's when you stop the waste, your life has not gone down at all. I don't miss that TV subscription because I never used it. I don't miss that a lower mobile phone because I wasn't ever using 200 GB of data. Okay. And you should spend more on guilt-free on things that you want to enjoy. Cheat sheet, because many people struggle to even do budgeting and knowing how much they spend. Typically, your annual expenses are 2 to 3 times what you spend on your housing. So if you have a home loan or you have rent, multiply that by 12 to get the amount for the year. Multiply that by 2 to 3 times is your usual typical person's total annual expense. All right. So if you're not sure how much you're spending, this is a pretty easy way to arrive at how much you're probably spending. The other cheat sheet item is this 50-30-20. Spend 50 on your essentials, 50% of what you make, 30% on pleasures of life, and 20% to save. So for people who ask me, what should the number be? Well, that's very personal, but this is a number that a ratio that works for most people. All right. Operationalizing and putting the plan to work is a lot of people end up having a plan for a plan, but vision without execution is hallucination. They're too scared to start and they think it is all too complex. So now we are going to simplify that. Invest your money, because money in the bank loses value. You have to grow it. Go for easy, and we'll talk about how to calculate how much money you need. And get help if you need it. Financial planning, tax management, even financial advisors. I have a financial advisor for a portion of my portfolio to cover the area I don't know a lot about. Cheat sheet. The money you will need for financial flexibility is about 30 times the money you spend in a year. That is a super comfortable number. Anything less than that doesn't mean that it can't happen. It just means that you will be aware of what you're spending. At 30 times, you're very, very safe usually. Now, it will matter in terms of at what age you're looking for flexibility. I was looking for it before 50, so 30 becomes a number. If you're in your 50s already, this will be a lower number. Okay. 2 other cheats. 120 minus your age is the percentage that a balanced portfolio should have in shares and equities. So if you're 55, subtract 55 from 120, which gives you 65. That is the number that you should have in shares, and the rest you should have in bonds and other assets. Because shares have a much higher growth, but they also have a lot of fluctuation. Rule of 72 is 72 divided by the percentage of return that you get gives you the number of years in which your money will double. So if you make about 7% on your money will double every 10 years. Okay, Genie is dead every 1 year, but yours will do every 10 years. So the Genie's rate of return was 72%. Okay. This is very similar to Phil, the world's unluckiest investor. We looked at a bunch of people. This is a Schwab study. They invested 2,000 over 20 years in exactly the same thing. Peter is the guy who invested on the lowest day of the year. So he was the best investor possible on the world. And at the end of 20 years, he had about 186,000. Ashley just went on the 1st of January every year, and her balance is not much lower than Peter. It's just about 10% lower over a 20-year period. That's not even 1% a year. Matthew was the person who would dollar cost average it in a complicated way. He ended up being worse than Ashley. Rosie was Phil. She was the world's worst investor. She got every one of them wrong. Even she's not too bad. Larry was the guy who just kept planning and he didn't end up doing it. And you see his amount is much less, right? So if you have the $250 a month, you invest early and you let it be, versus someone who invests double of that from later, the balance ends up being much higher for the person who started earlier. Now we'll quickly talk accelerations. On the left, you see a Papa John's pizza, which was the world's most expensive pizza. All right. In 2015, this pizza cost $1 billion because it was paid for in the world's first commercial transaction of Bitcoin. And that Bitcoin's value before the last crash was about $1 billion. I think right now it would be about 700 million, but still a lot. The banana with the duct tape is an actual art installation which sold for more than $1 million. And is therefore its value went up 50 times in 5 years. Okay. But acceleration has to be very, very carefully done. So at one point in the court of Napoleon III, aluminum was more expensive than gold. So people like you and I, if we went to dine with Napoleon, we would be served in gold utensils. People like Swati, who are very cool and important, would be served in aluminum. Okay. There was a time when in Holland, a single bulb of tulips cost as much as a house. And this very ugly, very weird looking monkey's picture that you see here, at one point, this was sold as a metaverse non-fungible token for more than $1 million. Today, I think its value is close to zero if it came on the market. So, your pizza could be worth $1 billion, but your monkey could be worth zero. So you have to be very, very careful when you try to accelerate. All right. There is good debt, investing more than you have. A home loan is a perfect example of good debt where you are taking a lot more money. It's called leverage. And as a result, you can grow money faster using that. Now we come to rewiring, changing your mind. So letting a lot of people struggle with this because their relationship with their money is very complicated. Their approach is outdated. I grew up hearing that debt is bad. So I paid off my student loan, which was kind of stupid because my student loan was even cheaper than a home loan. We had a very, very good negotiated rate. I should have stuck onto that loan and bought a house earlier, but I didn't know any better. Another problem people have is low financial literacy. They get overwhelmed, confused, and nervous, and they feel a lot of uncertainty. So invest to learn to invest, experiment, rewire, build psychological safety, have a plan B. Usage, we've talked about the struggles that people have with usage. I focus more on income, inflation, and instability. Create a personal income plan using dividends, using bond coupons and stuff. Remember, inflation does not impact what you own, grow, or make. Take advantage of deals, of off-peak pricing, and instability. Adjust for good and bad years. So, if the markets have had a great year, buy your stuff. If the markets have had a bad year, you can push off changing your car by another year and stuff like that. So you can adjust what you need. You don't have to just follow it blindly. Cheat sheet is that take 4 to 5% out every year of what you have, and you can adjust that for inflation every year. And the last one is about protection. People believe that things will not happen to them and they live in the present. But as Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face. So what you need is a margin of safety, some emergency money, minimum 3 months of living expenses, ideally 1 year. Mine is about 6 months. And yes, you need insurance, life insurance that protects your family if you're gone, disability insurance that protects you if something happens to you during your career, critical illness, and long-term care. So having these shields and safety nets are crucial. In a long life, you don't jump off a platform without being tied to a rope. No bungee jumper would jump off without being tied to a rope. There's a reason for it. Remember, in life, lifespan does not equal health span. People as rich as Joe Kennedy, who was John Kennedy's father, he lived till 81, but he was invalid for the last 8 years. Equally, you have a Sikh called Fauja Singh, who started running marathons at the age of 80 and lived till 113. Don't blame it on your parents, by the way. Genetics only account for 25% of how you age. Ultimately, the way to get there is health, wealth, and happiness. The things that make up your health is what you eat, how you sleep, how you move, and how much you learn. And focus on people who lift your spirits and stay away from people who drain your energy.
Right.
Memory dividends are crucial. I don't know if you guys, whenever I meet my college friends, we are talking about, hey, remember when we did this and we did that? None of those experiences had really cost money. As college students, we were so poor that we had no money to spend, but we still remember those things very fondly and they give us joy even now when we are 50. So you don't need the money, you need to spend on experiences and feel good. And last is a formula for happiness, because part of your financial plan is a formula to be happy. Happiness is equal to quality relationships in your life plus purpose minus chronic stress that you have. If you can add more people that matter to you in your life, you feel a sense of purpose and you eliminate the stress, you will be happy. Money is going to be a mechanism to assist, but you can be happy without too much money and you can be very unhappy with a lot of money. But happiness, it does directly correlate to your health span. And if you don't have your health span, your plans to live a long, fulfilling life are going to be short. So with that, thank you very much. I am now going to shut up and stop sharing if I can figure out what to do here. Sorry, I did run a little bit over. My apologies.
Yes, so thank you, Prashant, for leading us through cliff, leading us to the edge of the cliff, but also telling us how we don't have to fall off.
And Sunita, I know we stopped you from asking your question even earlier. So can you please ask your question? I'm feeling very bad about it.
No. Actually, you answered it on the way, and you actually created more questions in my mind. So it's a good place to be there. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
Sunita.
Okay. So I'm saying I'm in a good place. You raised more questions than I want to ask. So I just asked, yeah, and you gave the answer. How do I connect with you? Probably for me, the focus is changing mindset, which is the biggest challenge. And as you rightly said, I could connect with every word you said, every example you gave. So I can say that there's nothing to fear. I don't know why fear was something as a reaction, But yeah, that's the reality of non-linear living today.
It is, and just believe me that it is actually easier than you realize. Once you start doing it, you'll discover that it is. And please, absolutely feel free to email me, and we can set up time. But
Yeah,
this is to, and not at the expense of plugging the book. The book does cover a lot of this, and especially
sure.
I hate the pricing of the book in Singapore because Amazon does not print in Singapore, so they made it super expensive. But if any of you can buy it in India, it's quite cheap in India. Okay.
Yeah,
Even I wouldn't buy my own book in Singapore because it's $28, but in Singapore, in India, it's 600 rupees.
which is pretty doable. Yeah.
I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, the questions are how do we customize to every kind of lifestyle, philosophy, all that. In a general way, this was very enlightening. But I guess that is what we get as an awareness session. That's absolutely fine.
No, I think more than that, in all honesty, it is difficult. I'm a little hesitant in giving anyone financial advice without details of what
Yeah,
their financial realities
absolutely.
are, right? Because everyone's scenarios are very unique, and giving someone financial advice is very big responsibility because if you don't
Yeah,
understand,
yeah,
you can get it wrong. The book does a little more detail on each of these dimensions. So I think for most people who've read it, they tell me that it gave them the answers they wanted. But my suggestion is that start the general, and then when you get advice, when you consume content, when you even meet with a financial advisor, you'll actually get much more value from it. Because once you started, you'll begin to, I love Sunita's point that you got more questions. That is the
yeah.
first thing. You have to have more questions because then when you talk to the experts, you can ask them those questions, right? If you and I were sitting over a coffee, you can hit me with a bunch of questions. Maybe I won't know some of them, but I'll know many because I've asked more than 100 people. Yeah.
Thank you, Sunita, for your question and for confessing that you have more questions, like I think, as do all of us now, which is a good thing because that's what this session was supposed to do, to raise awareness. I think on that note, we are going to say a big thank you to Prashant, and we will be sharing the recording as well as the blueprint and other contact details so that all of you, if you have questions later, you can reach out to him. Prashant, thank you for a wonderful 1 hour.
Thank you, Swati. And one other request, everyone. I am very active on LinkedIn. I do post almost every day. So do please connect with me. Please comment. Please ask your questions even there. Maybe many other people can also benefit from your question. I was surprised, we are getting a lot of comments in my post because I think these are topics that actually are scaring a lot of us today. And
Absolutely.
sometimes you also need to know that you're not alone. The questions you have are shared by many people. Your anxieties are shared by many people. So there's no shame in asking any of this stuff. I have been a financial planning mess and I have no excuse. Okay. So uh, everybody just needs to not worry about what they got wrong up till now or what they think they missed the bus. You haven't missed any bus. Just get started. Do it now and build as you go along and get better along the way. Yeah, okay. Let me put my link.
Great advice. Yeah, if you could put in your LinkedIn
Yeah,
ID.
please.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. And
And if everyone,
big thank you to Swati and a big thank you to Mansi. Pulling these events is not easy. Bhavna is also, I think, on the call. And I think Wisdom Circle is doing an incredible job to bring the community together like this. So I think it's really good that you're able to bring people together.
Absolutely our pleasure, Prashant. Thank you so much for such a good event. Everybody who can come on camera, I'll just take a screenshot for Prashant. So yeah, on the count of 3. So 1, 2, and I'm waiting for a few more to turn on. Okay, 3.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a lovely evening.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone.
Prashant. Thank you,
very
everyone.
much.
Thank you,
Thank
Prashant.
you. Have a
Great,
nice
great
day.
session.
Fantastic. Thank
Thank
you.
you.